Hello, beautiful people, and happy weekend, happy end of the week. I hope you had a good one. So, this is my practical application of astrology into my experience video. So, if you're seeking the astrological forecast for next week, that will be coming up later on, potentially on Monday, because I'm not quite sure whether I'll be able to make it on Sunday, but it's coming. However, if you want to just hear about my stories, the story of my life, then you are in the right place because this is what this video is about. So today I'm actually recording this on Friday, and the reason for that is because I'm babysitting my 1-year-old nephew tomorrow. I'm having the auntie and nephew day tomorrow all day, so I have to reschedule my what I would be normally doing and do some things today, and then the rest of it will have to be done when he's sleeping tomorrow. So anyway, it's very interesting, and that's what I want to talk about, how I just had my very first full week in Slovakia last week. When I was making my video, I was here only just for a few days. It wasn't a full week yet, and now it's over a week. Obviously, it was week on Wednesday, and I'm recording this on Friday, and I thought today is a very good day to record this because it's the Sun-Jupiter trine, which is a very, very auspicious sign. So I'm very grateful to Sun and Jupiter to support me in this conversation. And yeah, so what I wanted to say is that it's interesting, obviously, Virgo season, learning and adjusting, and how I have to keep adjusting my schedule. And one of the adjustments, of course, is like tomorrow I'm babysitting, so I cannot just do what I normally do and what I want to do. And this is pretty much the entire conversation and how I want to direct this little share, hopefully not very long one, because I know that's what I tend to be doing recently, oversharing. But how my environment, my current environment, and I mean, of course, there is no coincidence when it comes to anything in life, and just as much as it's representing a challenge for me and a true, in some cases, a headache, let's just say, it is teaching me a lot. In a good Hierophant fashion. It is teaching me a lot because one of the things that became very obvious to me, especially making the transition from me being in Bansko, having my own place, my own schedule, not having to have to take anybody into consideration apart from myself, and literally just hermiting in my little witch cave, not even coming out like for days on time sometimes, just to go and fetch food to grocery store and come right in and hide away. People didn't even know that I was living there. I mean, it was kind of like a community place where there are people living, doing things together, and most people probably never even saw me, and I was there for 3.5 months because I was just hermiting, hiding away. And now here I come to Slovakia. Of course, I already shared the symbolism of the ground closing of the 19-year cycle. And I know that a lot of you are experiencing also that there is a lot of things coming around, offering or being offered to us for resolution and final integration and closing of these patterns that are continuously presenting themselves in our reality. So one of these things is how, because I have a lot of fixed energy in my chart, okay? I'm Taurus Sun, Aquarius rising. I have tons of things going on in Scorpio, Aquarius, and Taurus. Pretty much all my planets are, not all of them, but most of them are in a fixed sign. So I have a lot of fixed energy, and having an abrupt change to my schedule is very challenging, especially to start with. Like, I put up a lot of resistance, obviously I sulk, I get unhappy, my inner child totally kicking the fuss like 100%. And one thing that definitely became obvious to me very clearly, very quickly, was how rigid I can get attached to my schedule, like how rigid I can get attached. And actually being here is teaching me so many lessons that how that is completely impossible to adhere to in my current environment, because of course I'm staying with my parents. I have 3 siblings and 2 of them have 2 children, and obviously my parents are grandparents, so they want to see their grandchildren. And my sister is on maternity because my older nephew is 3, he only just started kindergarten, and my younger nephew is 1 year old. That's the one I'm hanging out with tomorrow. So my sister comes like 3, 4, 5 times a week, like for the grandchildren to spend some fun time with grandparents, especially her oldest son that just started kindergarten. His kindergarten is 10 minutes walk from where my parents live, so it's this kind of continuous what is it, this door, this rotating door, this I forgot what is the word for it, but I'm sure you guys already are filling me in on that, this rotating door, evolving door, whatever it's called. So it's like that in this household, and my room, the one I'm staying in, well, it's not even my room, it used to be my brother's room actually, because what used to be my room, mine and my sister's, is right next to my parents' bedroom, and I'm like, nah, I'm not staying there, that's too close, to my parents for my comfort. Plus the Wi-Fi there is very bad because it's on the opposite side of the apartment. So anyway, where I'm staying in, it's good because there's like a hallway, so I can shut both doors, and I feel like, okay, I'm a little bit separate here, but it's right next to the front door of the apartment. So of course, every time somebody comes in and out of the apartment, like they're passing in front of my room, which is very disruptive to my schedule, obviously. And then apart from that, as I said, there is this continuous flow of people coming into this apartment, because everybody in my family is fairly social apart from me. Like, I'm completely antisocial, I don't socialize, I can just literally be hermiting in one room for weeks on no end, like hardly come out for food and bathroom, and that's it. I'm perfectly happy with that. And I mean, each to their own, obviously, and that's beautiful how everybody chooses their own path. But I never wanted to, have my own family. This is something that was very obvious to me ever since I was a child. And coming from a big family myself, like everybody in my family has tons of children and stuff. And I was like, okay, yeah, for 5 minutes, and then I remove myself, which is not the case, which is not the possibility for me right here, right now. So what I'm very quickly discovering and observing, and it's so interesting because it's this Virgo season, learning and adjusting. And also in other aspect is, as I mentioned in my past video, I just started a course with my evolutionary astrology teacher. It's an astrology immersion, which is a somatic experience of the archetype. And I even shared this even during the class, actually, publicly during the group Zoom meetings, but also with my close friend, the closest one. I said that I feel I'm experiencing all these archetypes in real time before I even watch the material, the videos with, all the prompts for how you should, test this in your reality, and, like do the practical application literally so you can physically experience that, right? I'm experiencing this before I even watch the video, and I'm like, how is that possible, So last week, the archetype, because the classes go from Wednesday to Wednesday, which I think is hilarious because it's of course the Mercury day, which is about gathering information, right? It's the short-term courses. And and last week, like every single week, it's literally the archetype in action full time, properly, like in my reality. And then the last week from Wednesday to this Wednesday was about Mercury, and it's all about obviously how we gather information, but about this multidimensionality of reality. My teacher uses different word, but this is the word that always pops into my head naturally. And I'm like, this is so beautiful to understand because of living with all these different characters in my environment right now, whether it's my parents or my siblings or these little ones, the nephews, the Pluto Capricorns, right, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with the traits of their personalities if you have anyone under age of 15 in your environment. And it's amazing how it is really in a real time how I'm observing these archetypes, regardless of what the archetype is, and how these people in my environment are literally playing up the role of the archetype. And for this week it's Cancer. And another interesting thing, I'm just going in all these different rabbit hole all at once and making it probably very boring for everyone. This is like literally like Mila's little weekly confessions like my personal diary here. So actually when I made my astrological forecast video on Monday, if any of you watched it, I said that, it's interesting because I just watched the Gemini archetype, and actually when I was looking at everything that was going on this week, it's all about Gemini Jupiter, because Gemini Jupiter, which is like Gemini Sagittarius Mercury Jupiter, right? Because they come in pair, right? They are in opposition to each other. And And that's all that's going on this week. Like literally we had Venus station in direct, but for some of you that happened like last Sunday, you know, like depending where you are, which time zone. But then Jupiter station retrograde, and before it happened, you know, Jupiter and Mercury made the second trine, and then, you know, we had the the Sun Mercury conjunction on Wednesday, and today as I'm recording this, we are having the Sun Jupiter trine, right? And I'm like, everything this week is about this Mercury and Jupiter, you know, like all this communication and perception of reality archetype. And I was like, well, don't I just see that in my reality, how I feel like, you know, these people, they live in a completely different reality. We live under the same roof, we speak the same language, but it's a completely different reality. And it's just this opportunity for observing and actually understanding that there is no right and wrong. You know, their reality is not any, like, you know, better, or my reality is not any better. Like, obviously the experience of that reality is different, but it's just like also having the acceptance that it doesn't matter how much I try to explain my perception of reality, and my experience is just not computing, because it's completely alien, it's completely foreign to them, because my parents, they are not spiritual, they don't care about astrology or extraterrestrials or anything that I entertain my everyday reality with. And they go like, you know, there are people who can help you, maybe we should call someone for you. And I'm like, okay, no. And yeah, and actually today I watched the Cancer archetype, and of course, you know, Cancer is like your inner world, but it's also the family, it's the safety and security, and again, like how the two can collide, you know, and clash, like, okay, what's your inner world like, what's my inner world like, and that's actually make me feel, you know, safe and secure to know that this is like, what is it for you and stuff. It's just all these interesting dynamics that I'm observing, and where I'm getting with all of this, you know, without making this 100 hours long, is that, well, I am very grateful for having this opportunity to see the archetypes in actions, how they're literally just playing out in a real time, to like, okay, now I know what that feels like, because it allows me to be more compassionate and you know, like hold a space even for my clients, or for anyone who comes into my field, that like, okay, well, yeah, you know, I understand, because I had the opportunity to observe that with people who are dear to me, or, you know, like my interaction with these people and stuff like that. But apart from that, the other thing is that well, if I'm always on my own in my hermit cave and I don't interact with anyone, I always say there is just so much you can learn on your own. There is that, like, everything always goes in cycles, as everybody probably you know, observed in their reality, and I'm sure we all pay attention enough to observe this, that there are periods of our time where, and this is natural because of the Aries Libra archetype, and of course now we're having the North Node in Aries, so we're becoming very sensitive to this. So we're having periods in our life where we go like, oh yeah, I want to be with people, I want to interact with people, you know, I want to be in a relationship, I want to be married, I want anything, whatever. And then there are this period of time when we just like want to retrieve and go like, no, I don't want to be around anyone, I want to have my own time and space, like, unless people are completely like, I don't know, Libra overload or something in their chart, where it's just like, no, I need to do everything with someone else. I need to be around somebody all the time, which I don't know, because it still would trigger the Aries archetype at some point. So there will still be like, you know, that people will hurt us, desert us, abandon us, betray us, and then we retrieve, and then we go, okay, now I need to be alone because people are not to be trusted, you know, and stuff like that. So what I'm trying to get to here is that we really do need the interaction with our external environment, including other human beings, because then how else we ever going to learn anything that we can only perceive when we are being mirrored or triggered by the other, right? Because this Libra always plays a function, right? Like, everything is always connected in a chart. All the signs, they communicate with each other, and they support each other, and they support us, you know, like in this experience called life on planet Earth, right? We came here to learn. This is a school of life. It's the most dense and the most challenging of all planets, but why not come here and have an experience and learn something, right? So anyway, so this is something that I've been definitely observing, because I can see my inner child and my rigidity, you know, my fixation coming up like big time, and going like, I don't like this, I don't want this, I can't wait to get out of here, but for now it's like, well, this is where I am. So like, how much more difficult do I want to make it for myself, just being in this constant resistance to my environment? So what had to happen very first was for me to like, in a sense, prioritize what am I going to watch on social media. Because before, when I'm on my own, I am tuning all the time. I'm having my breakfast, dinner, snack, whatever, I'm watching something. I'm like, I have Gemini in a fifth house. I mean, it's really my fourth by the traditional astrologies. I have Gemini IC, which is why I cannot possibly live in one place all year round. Is impossible for me. I get really upset, and my Mercury is in Aries, obviously, as I shared before, as everybody knows by now, by me talking so much. But my Gemini rules my fourth house, which means that, from the traditional point of view, I need at least two homes, because otherwise I go bonkers. But apart from that, Gemini actually, from the when you use this different house system, like what is it, whole sign system, yeah, actually Gemini is in my fifth house. So I perceive everything that is to do with learning, studying, talking, communicating, walking. I love walking. That is fun for me, like for some people, especially people with Leo on their fifth house, they're like, okay, like, let's go to the shows, let's go and party, let's go and have fun, right? For me, that's the worst nightmare. I'm like, no. Like, I just want to learn stuff, right? Like, even when I was a kid, I spent my entire like, well, even until the COVID, to be honest, like into my entire life, as soon as I can read, until pretty much COVID, which then got me to change the direction of my life, let's just say. I was just reading from one book to another, continuously, like escaping this reality, just constantly going into some different worlds. At the time, I was completely like unaware of anything, so it was all fiction, of course, which still at the same time was helping me to understand human interaction, even though some of that was completely fictional. But still, it gave me certain knowledge and understanding. So I wasn't having external relationship, but I was living through the characters, so I could still have all these different experiences. It's so fascinating, because now talking about it, I'm like completely like things are clicking in for me in like at the same time, and I'm like, yeah, because this is exactly what we do here. We choose this avatar and we choose this ego identity, our inner world, our inner self, like however we identify ourselves through all these name label and stuff, what all that creates the identity of who you are in this incarnation. But at the same time, there is that I am presence, like when you stop and you just observe yourself observing, which is like, I'm sure I mentioned this previously, that this happens to me when I give myself a time to just pause and I observe myself observing. There is that something that is not my brain, that is observing this reality. And in essence, that's exactly what I was doing, reading all these books, and observing through all these different characters and getting so involved that literally my day would get completely ruined if that character was having a trouble. I would like feel it so deeply. And I mean, I have cancer, moon in Cancer, so like I am very empathetic. But anyway, so what I'm trying to say that the direction of my life completely changed after COVID, and I read one fiction ever since, and that was on my long flight from England to Mexico with my full night overstay in overlay in Canada. So I had time to read fiction. I gave myself the permission, like, okay, I have so many good books I could be reading, but let's just switch off for a bit. But apart from that, no, I didn't read any more fiction, which I guess that now my subconscious mind is getting it's seeking a stimulation, like, okay, but we still have to learn, we still have to learn about this human experience, and you getting in your hermit cave and just interacting with with my world through ether, through internet. It's not a real, like, I didn't have any real humans around me. Like, yes, like, of course, going to grocery store, you see people and stuff, but nobody like personal, nobody close. And now suddenly I get dumped into my family, which is like so codependent, and they all at each other's throat all the time, and everybody wants to get involved in everybody's business, and it's all like very close and personal and stuff. And I'm like, is the complete extreme, you know. So I'm like, whoa, 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 like what the hell is this, you know, like you know, I'm trying to like don't come close, right? But of course it's my family and I'm staying with them, so it's just like, okay, what am I going to do, right? So the first thing that had to be adjusted is how much screen time I'm spending. Of course, you know, I'm spending still a lot of screen time because it's my work, because, you know, I have to create content for social media, which I enjoy, and then my readings and, you know, all these other things that come with it. And I piled on my plate 3 courses, which I very quickly, because they happen in simultaneously, 2 of them exactly for the same duration as well. And I quickly had to actually acknowledge my limitations and understand that I am not going to be able to do this. Like, yes, if I was, because when I booked all these courses, I was in my hermit cave. So I was like, sure, I can do all of that, you know, like, of course, I can just, you know, watch less YouTube and do more courses, right? No problem. And it all like sounded like this is exactly what I need to do right now, like right now, right this minute, right? But now my environment completely shifted. I am in, you know, we are in Virgo season, which is like discerning and practical application, learning and adjusting and going down to practicality. But at the same time, with all these retrograde planets, is this deep inner reflection, like this introspection, like, is this working for you? Do you think that this is the right path, or what is it? So the first thing, as I started saying 3 times already, what had to adjust was I had to turn off notification from all these people that I follow. And because I would get stressed, I'll be like, oh my God, I have 10 unwatched videos. Like, when in the hell I can find the time to do that, right? So I had to quickly, like, you know how you have this bell button on YouTube where it's just like all, you want to see all from that person. But if it's like 20 people, then it's like, I cannot physically possibly like keep up with that right now, because I am not on my own. So it's not like I can just have my headphones on my head all the time and just keep watching and absorbing all this info and stuff, which, you know, a lot of that is spiritual stuff. And like, you know, like I said, you know, I'm like hungry for all these, like, yeah, bring up the channelings from extraterrestrials. Yes, this is exactly what I need to hear right now. And for sure, but yeah, I had to kind of started censoring myself, like, okay, do you need to see this right now? Is this relevant? Is this important? So that was the first thing. Second thing was the courses. Like, okay, I'm doing 3 courses at the same time. I cannot do any of them properly because I don't have the time to put into it. And now what is the priority? Like, what is the number one I want to put my time into? So I had to made a list, like, okay, number 1, number 2, number 3. And then I've decided that, unfortunately, the third one that I've decided, well, they're all as important as each other, but it's like, okay, well, you know, by the universal interference, the Q&A for 2 of them are exactly on the same day, exactly at the same time. And I'm like, I was even saying to my soul sister, I was saying to her, how is this even possible? We have 7 days a week and 24 hours in each day. And how is this possible that for 2 of the 3 courses I'm doing, they happening at the same time? You know, the Q&A, and actually one of them, it's like the teaching is together with the Q&A, and the other one is like you have the pre-recorded material, and then is once a week the Q&A, right? And I was like, how is this possible that the 2 of them are happening on the same day at the same time? Like, there is another 6 days of a week, and like one of them, my astrology course, is happening on Wednesday afternoon. So I'm like, well, I could do it in the evening, in the morning, so even Wednesday could still be available. But for whatever reason, universe decided to point things out to me this way and say, actually, you need to prioritize, because it's not possible for you to be at the same place, 2 places at the same time, even if it's on internet, you know, like 2 Zoom rooms, imagine, like, like it's just not possible. So isn't that fascinating that this week is all this Mercury Jupiter, right? All this Mercury Jupiter energy and Sun Mercury conjunction. Everybody is retrograde. Obviously Sun is not retrograde because Sun only goes direct, but isn't that interesting? And it's like, make you reevaluate. And then I'm thinking, like, okay, well, one of the courses, like I said, I wanted to do for such a long time. Actually, all of them I wanted to do for a long time. But with the astrology is redoing things, you know, because it's like, okay, well, this is something I've been studying for a while now. It's just looking at it from different perspective, but it's kind of going over the same thing. So it's okay. This is fine for Mercury retrograde, of course. But, you know, and the other one, I was like, well, I followed this person for all this time. So it's like, now learning like properly what I already like kind of knew to a certain extent, but not like properly, right? And then the third one is like, okay, well, this is still something that I'm aware of, but I haven't studied with this person before, and so I'm like, okay, well, this might have to wait until I actually go to Mexico, and I hopefully have more like peaceful environment, and again, I can go into the witch cave, and I don't have to be taking all these other people and their needs into consideration, including like a 1-year-old that is like, what do you say to a 1-year-old or a 3-year-old that, hey, listen, I can't play with you right now. Like, I have to go and be on internet or something, like they'll be like, duh, like, what do you mean? I want to play now with you or in your room or something, because this is what actually the kids use as their playroom when I'm not here. This is their playroom. So all the toys are here. And now he's like, what do you mean we can't go there and play, So it's like crazy stuff happening around here. And, yeah, it's just like I'm like laughing, because I'm like, well, what else am I supposed to do? It's just like my entire schedule has been totally uprooted. Like, even when I'm communicating with my friends and stuff, it's like happening in all random times now. There is no like a regularity, or like, oh yeah, before we used to hang out for this time of the day or something. It's like, it's not happening, because there are so many things that's happening around me that are completely outside of my control. I just might have any of my siblings, against Gemini siblings, just open the door at any moment of any time, the front door, and like, hey, we came for a visit, completely unannounced. And then it's just like this fast, calculation, this Virgo, like fast, quickly, trying to readjust everything, be efficient, and like, okay, what is the best case scenario out of this, what's available to us right now. So this is pretty much the main point of my this week share, which probably might sound like a complete, like, why is she even talking about this? How is this relevant? Yeah. But I'm like, can you see, like, it's all this Gemini, Jupiter, right? It's all this, well, Mercury, Jupiter, Gemini, Sagittarius, which is all this like, people live in a different realities. That's 100%. And I'm sure, like, if you're watching my stuff, that you are perceiving reality from maybe similar way, but I'm sure that you also perceiving that not everybody around you is perceiving reality from the same way as you do, which is like, this person is on another planet, right? And I mean, yes, like physically, like there is a planet Earth right here, right now, but there is all these different timelines. There is all these different realities that we are entertaining our time in, depending on the frequency and vibration and all these kind of things, right? And having all these characters playing their roles around me, even though it's my mom and dad, or my brothers, or my sister, or my nephews, or my niece, or whoever, it doesn't matter what is the identity role they play in this incarnation. But the role that they play so beautifully, I'm even so many times I'm thinking like, oh my God, my parents, from, the judgmental ego point of view, like they're so asleep, they are so conditioned, they are so restricted, they're so unhappy because they just can't see out of their, this perception of reality. They just can't see the way out. And, I'm looking at the same situation. I'm like, but why? You can change it at any time. You don't need to watch the bloody news and get like fear-mongered every day. You can just read Eckhart Tolle or something and you'll feel better straight away. It gives you something to think about, And like, they would look at me like, are you crazy? Why would I do that? Or like my mom, I'm too old to learn anything now. And I'm like, of course, your brain will then say, your wish is my command, yeah? And even like observing like how, like these characters in my environment, how they talk to themselves. And I continuously reprimand, or like, like I actually pointed out to like in this case, my mom or my sister, and say like, do you hear what you say into yourself? Like, like, and I'm sure any of you experienced this at some point in your life, and you say, you so stupid, and you say that to yourself, But I'm like, your subconscious is listening, it's recording this. So that's why, this is how we start feeling that, oh yeah, this is me. I feel I am this, because the subconscious goes like, well, you told me that. So of course I now believe you, right? Because it's a program. So it's very fascinating for me with my Aquarian detach. Let me look at the bigger picture with Jupiter, in my first house, Aquarius. It's like, okay, let me look at the bigger picture of all this scenario. Like, I feel like I'm dying and I can't breathe because my time and my schedule is so restricted and turned upside down. But let me zoom out and look at this from the higher perspective, like, ooh, these are all just characters helping me to understand something. And some of it is my own rigidity, because so many times I even say like, oh yeah, it would be nice to have a boyfriend. And then I'm thinking, where the hell would I put a boyfriend in my life? Like, I mean, I have no time, right? Which again, the subconscious is, listen, I have no time. But do I really have no time, or I just don't know how to make time? So guess what? I come and visit my family, and my family forces me to make time because of the environment, and especially the kids, because this Pluto Capricorn, seriously, and I mean any of you that have some of those at home, they are not gonna say no for an answer. They're not gonna take no for an answer. If they think that, hey, this is what I want and this is what I believe is the right thing, you can try to convince them, good luck. Like, no, not gonna happen. So it's like, it's this continual mirror, and how they are the greatest teachers, and how there is so much to be learned from these kids, like, seriously. But also to see all these different generations interacting with each other, like, like my parents, like completely different paradigm, very different belief system, very different perception of reality. They live in completely different world. And then, of course, observing any of my siblings with their own realities and my own reality. And then, these little ones and their reality and the reality they are, like entertaining themselves with, and how they just jump in from that one into ours, and how it's all interconnected and everything is enmeshed together. And like, there is this cross here and cross there, and then everybody goes in their own way. And it's just fascinating. It's fascinating. Like, I don't even know how to put this into words for it to make sense, because it just sounds to me like the bunch of mumbling going on here, and me just sharing some random thoughts that just pop into my head. But I'm just observing. And like I said, today I listened to the Cancer archetype, and straight away I could feel it in my body, like, oh no, I don't want to share. No, this is too vulnerable. I need to keep myself safe, like, I don't want people to see my inner world. Like, what you mean, like, it's, what if they laugh? And then I'm like, do I care? No, because if you don't like watching this, then you're just gonna switch off to something next. I mean, it's very easy now with internet. You just skip, click, close the window. It's all good, it all goes quiet. So, yeah, so this was my week. I've gone from the victimhood mentality, which, this is the thing. This is one thing that I observe on my ego, on my ego self. I observe, like me, my higher self is observing and saying, oh yeah, she makes still all these mistakes, but at least she shrugs them off pretty quickly, like she doesn't hang around and wallows in self-pity for too long. So it's like, I can just see my spirit guide saying like, oh yeah, she's doing that again. Oh my God, she still hasn't learned. But then they go, oh, okay, but at least now she's figuring it out faster, she's like amending the the learning faster, right? So I'm like, it's so funny, like when I seriously, I sound like a schizophrenic here, I know, but when I detach myself from that ego identity and then look at it from the higher perspective and go like, oh yeah, you're doing your best, sometimes it might not look like that. And I know many of you can relate, thinking that, oh, I still suck, I still failed, why did I do that, I should have known better, right? All this inner critic, Virgo as well, inner critic, right? But then it's like, well, but I did my best, might have not been perfect, but I did what I could at the time. And the main point of the game is to recognize where we slipping back into the same patterns, and then go, okay, well, I catch myself, and now I can course correct and make a new choice under all circumstances. This is the new motto, new choice under all circumstances, right? And yeah, that's definitely like, it only took me a week to recognize, like, straight, because the first initial emotion was that learned response, or not response, reaction, right? The instinctual reaction to my environment, which is straight away put the hackles up, get offended, get into defensive, victimhood mentality. They don't understand me, they think I'm weird. Okay, so I'm gonna be even weirder just to be like a teenager and to get their hackles up as well, and all these kind of things. And then at the same time, then when all that calms down, and I go from my reptilian part of my brain to actually the the logical and this, like, and then connect to my intuition and stuff, and go like, okay, well, let's look at it from a different point of view now, like this Mercury, let's look at it from the different perception, like Jupiter. Let's try to make more sense out of this, like Virgo. Let's discern, right, and analyze everything and make a like a wiser choices this time. And yeah, and I mean, I, before, as I mentioned in my previous video, I always run away, like I would be here for like week 2, and then I'll be okay, I had enough of this. And I'm not saying, like even this time I was meant to go to England for a week, and now by a twist of fortune I was being offered to stay at my friend's place, and she said, well, why don't you stay longer? You can stay in a spare room. And, that's also going to have its own pros and cons, because she's also have kids. But, I have the opportunity now to stay in England for 3 weeks instead of 1 week, which will be okay. Well, I just have to survive 4 weeks here, and then I go to England for 3, and then I just come back for 2, and then I'm going to Mexico, so it will be okay. I can do that. But in the essence now, because I have these 4 weeks here, which is like, I'm not going anywhere for the 4 weeks. I am just right here, right now. And I have to make all these adjustments to my everyday reality. And isn't that interesting that I'll be arriving to England literally one day before the full moon in Aries, So it's like right after the equinox, and that just, fascinating. Just like everything else that's playing out, and exactly the timing of it playing out is fascinating. But yeah, this week definitely has been an opportunity for me to use this Gemini archetype and look at things from different perception, and understand that, well, everything is true and everything is lie at the same time. It just depends who is looking, how you look in, and whether you take in the other people's perception into consideration or not. And all these other archetypes, of course, gets triggered at the same time and play their role, as they always do. And to have these people, these characters in your environment to play out these roles of all these archetypes, to show you like, well, this is how it looks in practice, so now you know what you're gonna do about it. And being willing to make these adjustments, and actually having the understanding and then compassion for myself to understand that, okay, I do struggle with this, that I do fall into my rigid, regimented schedule and my ideas that this is the only way it can be for me. But then on the other hand, if no changes ever take place, then my life will never change. I will never have any people in my life. I will just be this old lady that just does reading for people and potentially helps other people to change their life, while I'm just there, in the same place, doing the same things. It's just a different name on a screen, different person with a different story that I am encountering and potentially, hopefully, supporting on their path, on their fool's journey. But mine will not change all that much, because I'll be like, well, I'm just doing the same old thing in my witch cave, and there is no one else to interact with to, trigger the hell out of me. And then suddenly universe create this situation where it says, well, let me help you out. Let me help you out, and dump me in my family, my crazy family dynamic that is just like so, life changing. It's just so awakening. Life awakening for sure. So I'm like, okay, I get it now. So yeah, so this week was definitely an opportunity for observing and shifting a lot of perceptions and making a lot of adjustments. And going forward, like, of course, I reduced my I had to reduce my working schedule, and then I can complain all I want about that, but I'm like, well, there is kind of no other way to survive in this environment. I have to make adjustments. So it's like have to be creative, like actually Gemini and Leo, they sextile each other. So it actually pushes us into becoming creative. It's like, okay, and I'm sure I never had this experience, but I'm sure a lot of new moms, they have to become creative, like, when am I going to go to toilet when I have this baby like attached to me 24/7, or when am I going to do anything? And they have to become creative with their daily routine. And the more kids you have, the more creative you have to become, of course, which I never was that brave. So now universe put me in a situation where it's like, okay, well, you can have a secondhand experience all the same. And and it definitely forces me to become more creative and make a lot of adjustments, and just start taking it like lighter, because we are in a mutable sign season. Virgo is a mutable sign, and it's just like, okay, you have to let go of this rigidity, because there is a new beginning just around the horizon. And there has to be adjustment made, because things are, like, there is this saying, I don't know exactly how it goes in English, but it's like, that the god is laughing while the man is making plan, that we are all like making plan, all organized. You have your 10 years plan or something, which is trying to condition us to believe that that's what we need to do. We need to have the 5-year plan and a 10-year plan and whatever plan. And then, by the time you get even to that point, you probably don't even want that anymore. You go like, actually, I don't want it. It's like kind of just like an ego thing. Like, I need to get to this goal because that's what I wanted 10 years ago. And just for the sake of achieving that, I need to achieve that. But is it actually healthy? Is it actually healthy for people to be now? In no way I'm saying that, oh, don't have no plans and don't stick to nothing. Obviously there is an extreme to everything, right? But what I'm trying to say, that there has to be, I guess, circumstances like the one I find myself in, when universe just like shuffles the cards for you, dumps you in a deep end and say, now swim, what you gonna do about it? Like, it's you have to be creative and you have to be open-minded and flexible and learn and adjust. And it's a perfect opportunity for me to walk my talk, because I always say, oh yeah, we are in this transitionary state where we have to be curious and open-minded and adjustable, and it's so easy to be when you are on your own, and your schedule is your own, and there's no one challenging you, and there are no other in like external factors that completely mess your schedule, and they like remove your attachment. Because like when I was in Bansko, actually it happened twice. We lost electricity because there was a storm, so there was no electricity and I couldn't do my reading. So I had to use my data and email the client saying, I'm really sorry, but we'll have to reschedule because we have no electricity. I cannot do the reading on a phone because I need to share the screen. But I need to do it on Zoom and share the screen because the client needs to see the chart, like what I'm doing. So I'm like, well, okay, what am I going to do? There are elements in play here. Or, when we lost water or something, there are all sorts of things going on in Bansko. I mean, it was all very short lasting, like everything got resolved like within, 12 to 24 hours. It was nothing major, not like, for some people in the world where they are in this situation for weeks or months or no end or forever, like some people never have this privilege of just turning the faucet and the water, clean water, drinking water comes out or something. So, so then there are these circumstances, and mine is no way, like, in no way can be considered to be anything extreme or drastic. It's just uncomfortable. Okay, it's uncomfortable for this rigid Taurus here. Because my Taurus is like, no, I don't want to change. I just want to stick to my schedule, okay? And then the universe go like, no, Taurus, you need to chill down, okay? Because Uranus is in Taurus now, and we need to break you out of your complacency and your outdated patterns, right? So so that's what's happening right here, right now, in real time. And I'm just sharing this to kind of create a comedy here, to create a little podcast. And it's not easy, it's absolutely not easy, especially when I'm like in the middle of that and I'm like, what the hell, like. But it's great learning opportunity. I'm not saying I recommend it to everyone, but again, like, it's not that bad. People are in much worse situation than I am right now. It's just my ego doesn't like it. Okay, let's go out with the truth. My ego doesn't like it, but it has to be kind of like, the inner child has to be reparented and go, don't worry, inner child, we're gonna take care of you. But for now we need to make adjustments. Okay, like we got to the point in our life where we are recognizing that there are some things that are just not going to work, in the future, going into the Aquarius age. We just have to become a little bit more open-minded and flexible and adaptable, right? Because the things that we are rigidly attached to might not be there forever. As we know, Saturn is in Pisces, okay? So the system is falling apart. So yeah, I think I should bring this to the close because it's 42, just as I said that. And the universe is saying, okay, you said enough. Like, wrap it up now. They got the message. You're talking about the same thing for 40 minutes in the circles. So yeah, so this is what I got for you guys. So as I said, today we are experiencing the Sun trine in Jupiter. I will be recording the astrological video to my ability and capability either on Sunday or on Monday. It should be released latest at some point on Monday. And yeah, I will put this up on my YouTube. I will schedule it for release for tomorrow, so Saturday. You'll see it on Saturday. I will, you know, do the rest of it as well. And yeah, I have to pre-record everything today, so this will be the one time you will see me wearing the same clothes 2 days in a row, which is actually because it's all recorded today. So yeah, so this is something that now in Virgo season everybody's gonna notice, because we all pay attention to details and pick up on these things and become critical. So like, oh, why is she wearing the same clothes 2 days in a row? And I'm like, well, because I have to record it all today, but I'm gonna be releasing it over 2 days time. But yeah, this is it. This is the story. This is what's been going on this week. Let's see what the next week brings, because now is the Cancer archetype in my course. So let's see what, you know, shadow vulnerable aspects of myself will be poked at this week, but I for sure will share next week. And yeah, I wish everybody a beautiful weekend under this beautiful aspect. We are building up towards the new moon in Virgo, so let's see what new beginnings could be intended, and the seed sown in the ground for them to, you know, bloom during the Pisces season, when I will be hopefully in Mexico, you know, in other witch cave. But for now, I'm enjoying this practical application and the ride of how astrology can be so funny, and sometimes laugh at me and say, well, try this. So much love to all, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye, guys.